We are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. How we doing this evening? We've got ourselves a wonderful guest with us. You'll learn more about them momentarily, but please welcome Danny Giovannini to the show. Hey. Uh-oh. Danny, Danny, did we lose you?
I could not have been a more perfect timing.
Uh-oh. Danny? There you are, I think. He's cutting in and out. This is why we do this before the show, right? This is before we hit record. But that's a good spot. Look at him. He's smiling. Things are good.
Yeah. It looks like he's happy to be here.
Yeah. He's thrilled to be here.
Zinni's already asking who's your
Man,
favorite
she came out
Pokemon.
hot, as she always
And
does.
I'll answer that for Danny. It's SpongeBob.
Danny's pensive. Danny, can you hear us? Uh-oh. I can't hear Danny.
So. I can hear him.
Uh-oh. Why can't I hear him? Damn it, everything was fine. And then we went live.
Damn, live. Every time.
It never fails. Danny, I think we lost you, but he left the room. I think. Wait,
No, I hear him.
You hear him?
I hear remnants, Danny.
Dude, this is weird. Because, like, in our room on Video Ninja, do you see him?
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
We got a message.
I don't see him.
I can hear you guys, but the video is blurry. This is like one of those horror things where, like, it's the chat to, like a chat horror story.
Yeah.
I can hear you guys. The video is blurry. Everything's dark.
Yeah. Because on my end, in the room, he's not here.
Really?
But
See, I'm seeing him. Yeah.
in the control room, I can see him there. So
Now I heard no. Did you hear no?
No, I don't hear him. That's a
I
problem.
don't hear anything.
No.
That's not good.
That's not good.
I can just relay what
I can see him. I can see him now. He's
relay what
moving.
you're saying, Danny.
Okay.
Doug, he's asking if we want him to leave and come back.
What? Yeah. Why don't we give that a try? Why don't you close out and come on back, and then we'll give this a try. Gang, this is how we roll. This is how we roll. My pecs are sore. Ooh.
Doug, after you clap us in,
Mm-hmm.
before you say, "Hey, everybody," clap, and then I have a sound bite, and then you start right after that sound bite.
Got it. Okay. I like it. We're pre-playing the show, gang, because this ain't improv. This ain't reality TV.
Spoiler alert to everyone out there, sometimes improv is thought out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, here's the thing. You take that concept, you throw it into the show, and it works wonders.
It does.
Remember we did that on one of our shows?
Yes. Well, it was something that we had done in practice before, right?
I think it was, we were talking about, was it Dick Johnson?
Oh, I think that might have been, maybe. I can't remember.
Danny, say something. I want to know I can hear you.
Hello?
Yay!
Hello?
I can hear him.
Can you hear me?
Hooray!
I'm here. I
Danny.
knew this was going to happen.
Well, it was hilarious because it's right as we went live, too. It was like, of
Right,
course,
I
it was
know.
like, hard stop.
I'm coming to you live from the worst internet in Glendale.
I was like, what, are you in Australia like our listener Jervis, who's always like, poor bastard tries to play games with us, and he's like, sorry, I'm clipping the whole time as he tries
Sorry,
to...
I'm on the other side of the world.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I know you're not in Australia, so I was going to guess, just based off your internet, are you in Glendale? I was gonna give it a second.
That was going to be his guess.
Glendale's notorious for choppy internet.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
About that on CNN.
It's everywhere. NPR, everyone's got it, you know?
Yeah, they do a lot of profiles on the internet in Glendale.
Wait, don't tell me you're in Glendale.
And everyone goes, ooh, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's a Maury show or some shit.
Like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So Doug,
Yes.
when people say chat things in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see them?
I do.
Great.
Do you have any other questions?
Are you seeing the chat too?
No.
He only has
Okay.
so much
It would
internet,
be
Justin.
fun if
Okay.
I did. Yeah. I have just enough to stream still pictures of your faces, and I can only hear you.
Yeah, Justin, how dare you assume that he has
apologize. That was-
spare internet to go around? This isn't a
was
goddamn
overly
old country
consumption.
buffet of internet. Come on.
Some people aren't as privileged.
Glendale.
You
These-
check your internet privilege.
Check your internet privilege, you son of a bitch. All right. I think we're here. We're sounding good. We're looking good. I'm going to go ahead and hit record.
Sounding good, looking good, feeling good.
All right. And 3, 2, 1.
Are you ready, kids?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin.
And holy shit, do we have an amazing guest with us this week. I'm so excited to introduce a incredibly talented comedian, a great writer, and a wonderful human. Please welcome Danny Giovannini.
Hey guys, long time. Haven't seen you in a while.
So long. I'm so excited. I have so many thoughts. It was so hard not to just like get into it before we went live and started recording. So much to chat about to get things going. But thank you for starters for just agreeing to be here.
Of course. Yeah, I'm super excited. This is a dream come true. I always, like literally every night, I pray on my knees and I go, I hope they'll invite me on the Mind Gap podcast soon. But I was a little too shy to reach out. So when you finally did, I knew the Lord was real. He answered my prayers.
That just proves if your heart is pure, you know.
Yep, that's right.
You get what you
Yeah, my heart is not pure, but good things happen to bad people too.
That's right. That's
It's just called religious oversight. That's all it is.
yeah, no big deal. It's something we can just overlook. It's no big deal at all.
Yeah.
But we have so much to get into. I'm so excited to chat with Danny about so much stuff. So, real quick, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. I want to say that, hey, if you're liking what you're hearing or what you're watching, do us a solid. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It's free, and it helps us so much. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to this on the audio side of things, awesome. Thank you. Hit the rate and review. Write us and drop us a review too while you're at it, and that'll also help us. That'd be great. It doesn't cost you anything except just a little bit of time. It'd be great. And if you feel like supporting us financially, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/mindgappodcast. Also check out our merch at redbubble.com. And if you'd like to join us live and chat with cool people like Danny, and if you're not here live, then too bad you don't get to chat with him live. Check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mindgappodcast. We live stream our podcast on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central, and I host a video game live stream on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central as well, which, by the way, big video game stream this Saturday. We've got Carly, a.k.a. C2, coming by to play some What the Dub. So y'all better, batten down the hatches and cook yourself some cinnamon rolls and stay in for the night, because we're going to have ourselves some fun. A root tootin' good time. It'll be a real barn burner. All right. That's housekeeping. You're fucking welcome. Let's turn our attention to the man of the next couple of hours. First things first, we got a question from the chat from Shannon that says, how does he feel about soup? Danny, how do you feel about soup?
Don't get me started on fucking soup.
Ooh, hot takes coming in.
God damn it. I know who asked this question.
It sounded pretty serious. It sounded like something we should absolutely ask you right off the top.
All
right.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, can we start easier? Is cereal soup?
Cereal is an offshoot of gazpacho, so yeah, it's soup.
Good answer. That's probably the best answer.
It's cold soup.
Mm-hmm. It's cold soup,
It's a
which
cold
is
breaded soup.
everyone's favorite soup, cold soup.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my problem with soup. It's too wet. I am not a broth man. I don't like to drink while I'm trying to chew. I want to do one and then the other. So if it's like a chicken noodle, I just want the chicken and the noodles. I don't need piss water in it. But if it's like a stew or a chili, that's a slurp. That's not a chew. So that's fine. If it's thick, I'll deal with it and I'll maybe enjoy it. But if it's just like a pissy soup, like a soup, get it out of here. I don't like it.
I think if it's thick, I'll deal with it is the pull quote of this episode. I think that's the one that quotes out of context. It's the best thing ever.
I say that at least once a week.
I will say, I hear what you're saying. You don't want to chew and slurp at the same time. But most soups, I mean, really, how much are you chewing? I mean, that stuff's been just sitting there getting all mushy and soft forever. I mean,
if it's a good soup, I'll chew a lot.
You'll spend some time on maceration if it's a good soup.
Yeah. Like, hey, a bowl of cereal, that's a great soup. That's mostly chewing.
That's true. Until it gets
soggy. You know what I do with the milk at the end? Well, you got to eat it fast. When you're done, you take that milk and you put it in a jar and you save it, like a mason jar. You save it. You just keep saving it, and then you throw it out when it's full.
There you go. I was
Never
gonna say,
drink it.
You know what I do? I pour it in the toilet. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I thought
pour it in the toilet tank.
The weirdest upper decker ever. Why does it smell like? Why does it smell like Captain Crunch in here?
What's going on? I thought you were going to say you put it in a mason jar and then you save it, and that's just your cereal milk, and like you just keep putting that back on cereal, and then
that's used milk.
I'm just saying. Now we're talking about reuse, reduce, recycle.
Listen, man,
I'm
this
the most
ain't like
wasteful man in the world.
This isn't like some oil that's been around for 10 years that you've been frying your chicken in, man. This is fucking milk, baby. Cereal milk.
Yeah.
Get it out.
And the new craze
doesn't hold.
Milk.
Well, because not only that, I mean, I would have to argue you'd have to use the same milk for the same type of cereal, or you're going to have this weird amalgamation of flavors that would just be an abomination upon this world.
Yeah. Doug, that's the game. That's when you play the cereal milk game. That's the game.
You know what? That's a game.
You either win or you die.
I'm willing to die because I don't want to win that game. That's for sure.
I choose death.
I choose death. Also, Zinni, who's always excited to ask this question of every one of our guests: who's your favorite Pokemon, and why is it Saddam?
Saddam? Is he a Pokemon now? I haven't kept up.
You know what? He is a Pokemon.
That was genuine surprise. For those who don't know, that was just a genuine surprise delivery.
I don't know what you said.
Snom. S-N-O-M.
Snom?
Wolf!
That's even weirder than Saddam.
Well, oh, goddamn. I'm not going to say what Wolf said. That's not...
Okay, my favorite Pokemon is Jolteon.
Jolteon. I gotta look this up. Who's
Gotta look this up now.
Jolteon?
You don't know Jolteon, but
I don't know Pokemon.
Snom?
Oh, well, I only know Snom because of Zinni, because Zinni loves Snom. Snom's like her Discord avatar all the time. Yeah. So I always make fun of it because it looks like a fuck pillow. An adorable one.
Might be.
It might be. All right, she approves. She said, okay, Jolteon's cool. She goes, fair enough.
Yeah, Jolteon is cool. That's why
do you like Jolteon?
Why?
Yeah. Defend your choice.
Because he's spiky and really fast.
Okay.
And when I was a kid, he reminded me of Goku. And I was like, this Pokemon clearly is a Super Saiyan. So I need to like him. But he's just like he's a cool cat. He's a cool cat fox dog thing. I don't know what he is.
I like it. I would say fox, personally. He looks like a fox to me.
Yeah, I mean, Eevee's like a fox, so I guess Jolteon is...
Well, he's a quadrupedal mammalian Pokemon, is what he is. So
yeah.
There you go.
And he's real.
He's real in here, in my heart. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking those, those questions right off the top, Danny.
Yeah.
You're
asking the tough stuff.
The tough stuff. Welcome to the tough stuff part of the show, where our listeners will chat to us. Wolf goes, whoa, yo, he likes anime? How soon can he come back for an anime out of context segment? That's a segment we do where we take a transcript from some anime, and usually I'm the one putting it together. Justin doesn't watch anime, so I just take some random scene out of context. I'm like, all right, we're going to cold read this. And we just choose the parts, and it's super fun. We had a fan submit one last week from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it was a real treat. So
that's one that's been on my list. I do watch anime, but I only watch like classic things that everyone is like, you gotta watch that. I'll be like, all right.
That's how I am.
And then like newer things that are starting to get really popular, or like if I read a manga and I really like it, I'll be like, oh, I'll watch the show, and because I like more things.
Yeah.
And I watch the subs and the dubs.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't discriminate.
I'm the same way. Like I've taken a risk. I'm like, hey, I'll see what this is all about, and been like, dear God, what have I done? This is so weird, such a waste of my time. I won't do it. So like, I definitely rely on recommendations from people for that sort of stuff, because
there's just too much out there.
Yeah,
most of the scripts that I read.
Right. That's my favorite thing. Is I'm like, he has no idea.
About most of the scripts that I write. Like, dear God, what have I done?
What have I done? What horror have I wrought upon this world?
Well, that's a great that's actually a great segue, because Danny, before we go any further, please, I want to give people I'm look at me, I'm starstruck right now. I'm stuttering. I can't get this out. Danny, tell people what you do, man. Tell everyone your cool shit.
I am a writer on Spongebob Squarepants on Nickelodeon.
Hell yeah.
As you can tell by my shirt that
yes!
You can only see if you're watching the stream right now live.
That's where the cool kids are.
If you're listening later, you're missing out on this great shirt.
And we're not even going to describe what the shirt looks like.
No. There may or may not be SpongeBob on it. Who knows?
Right. SpongeBob may or may not be in a embrace with Snom. We don't know.
We don't know. Who knows? But yeah, it's so cool. We first met Danny, Justin, and I in our very, very early improv days at Second City. Danny, we could say, is a founding member of the very memorable improv group, the Jessicas. So
Jessicas.
That's
Shout
right.
out to Jessica.
Yes.
We had some legendary shows in our very brief run.
Yes, we sure did.
Yeah. It's a good 8 weeks. 8 weeks of gold.
That's right, baby. 8 weeks of gold. Now, Justin and I have told a story numerous times on the show, and the listeners are pretty familiar with it, but I want to ask you this question as well. Danny, do you remember the first show that we did as the Jessicas?
I remember some of the shows that we did, but I don't know if I remember the very first one. But I also feel like I kind of know where this story might go. I was probably there.
You were there. And I just want to retell it from my side, see if maybe it sparks, jostles a little bit of your memory. Because this was my first time live on stage, as it was Justin's as well. Like, I hadn't done improv.
Wait, that was your very first time doing a show at all?
Exactly. Very first time doing any sort of improv in front of everybody. And I was actually the one that was, quote unquote, hosting, and taking the suggestions.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
And so I was like, hi, we're the Jessicas. Can I get a suggestion of anything at all? And do you happen to remember the suggestion we got, Danny?
Oh my God. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I feel like it was rather graphic.
Do you remember who gave the suggestion? It was very topical.
Topical.
Yeah.
Do you remember who gave the suggestion?
Do I remember the suggestion from a show from 9 years ago?
Yeah. It's pretty,
it is haunted Doug and I.
Yeah, this is something that has stuck with us. Very first show. And
clearly one of us has gone through enough therapy to get past this. And
one of us has moved on and had a life.
All right. So
I'm sure as soon as you say it, I will probably pass out.
I'm sure this will come back to you in great. So I'm hosting the show, and I haven't learned to the point that you can say no to a suggestion from the audience. So
this also sounds familiar.
I get, this just very topical because this person had literally, I think, passed away that day, and someone shouted from the audience, Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
And the person who shouted it was your dad.
It was my dad. That sounds like something he would do.
I love that Shannon goes, I really hope it was his dad. It was Shannon. It was his dad.
Yeah.
And I go,
So Doug accepted that because he knew, he's like, all right, I have to say yes and. So, yeah, thank you, Nelson Mandela. And he walks back, and in the form that we were doing, I was the one who had to step out and initiate the very first scene based off our very first suggestion. And again, my very first time on stage doing improv. So I step out, and I am flop sweating, just buckets. And I literally don't remember. I think I paced up and down the stage, and I used silence, got some laughs with that, and then I realized I'm gonna have to say something eventually. And I don't. I blacked out. I don't remember what I said.
I remember what you said.
It was met with very moderate.
Yeah.
And then I immediately ran to the back line. I'm like, next.
No, because what you did is you paced. You go, I can't believe he's gone. I can't believe he's gone. I think I'm pretty sure that's what you said. Is like, I can't believe he's gone.
Burned into your memory.
Oh yeah, this is
wonderful.
This is a positive memory for me because it was so bonkers, and it was, I had, a couple of rough improv shows, but that one was just like hilarious. And so, because I also remember you did like a South African Voldemort.
That was the one thing that I remembered was that I want to say the scene was Allison, who was like, she was doing like a really bad South African accent, and she was like complaining that the kids at school make fun of her for the way she talks. And then like me and one other person were playing like the parents, and I did my best South African accent, which was just me like kind of imitating Leonardo DiCaprio from
Blood Diamond?
And also like a little bit of the band D'Antwoord, because they were really popular at the time. This was like 2013. So I was like, all right, I'll just like, I'll think of like a couple lyrics to their songs, and then I'll just kind of go with it. And I guarantee no one else in this room is actually going to know what a South African accent sounds like.
Yeah, man. I remember being impressed at the time. I'm like, look at him go!
So, ironically, in 2011, I worked for a guy who was from South Africa. And when you launched into that, my jaw hit the ground, because I was like, that's actually... I worked for a guy. I couldn't do that. That's amazing. And I was just like, from that point forward, you were legendary in my mind. I was like, this guy is just a god on stage.
Yeah.
I rolled with Nelson Mandela.
Yeah. That was... So, like, we've told that story many times. I
remember this now.
Yeah. We've told that story many times. Like, our first foray into performance was that. And my favorite part was after the show, you're like, do you know who suggested that? We're like, who? You're like, it was my dad. And I was like, what? You're like,
you should have said no.
You're like, yeah, my dad did this. And that's when Jessica was so sweet. She goes, Doug, you don't always have to accept the first answer. You can ask for more if you don't like it. I'm like, okay, good to know. Like,
it would have been helpful before the show.
I had no idea that my dad had such an impact on your lives.
Yeah.
I look back on it hilarious because
Mind Gap legend.
He is a legend. And I look back on that and I laugh so hard because it was such a dick move, but in hindsight, it's hilarious. Like, it's so hilarious. Or he's just hey, do this really difficult thing. And he probably was like, they're not going to say yes. But he's like, oh, they're going to do it? Okay, go for it.
The more that we talk about it, the more is coming back to me. And I know I'm hearing him say it again. I know exactly how he said it. And I know, even though it was dark, I know that he was in the back of the room, just on a bar stool with his arms crossed, chin up, like, watch this. And then there must have been like one beat of silence. And he's like, that's enough. And just went, Nelson Mandela. And everyone went, oh.
And they're like, oh, this dumb shit is actually going to take it. Like,
he really did it.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was amazing. So something that we look back fondly. So
I'm glad. I mean, trial by fire, you guys. You survived it. You know, you made it through that. You can make it through anything.
Right.
Well, that's
the
what
lesson
we
here.
Talk about is that like that was you couldn't have asked for a better, because you always hear those comedians or those performers who they have a run of just like nothing but amazingness, and then when they bomb the first time, it throws. How could I bomb? I'm amazing. So like. Yeah. I honestly think it was a gift to come out to one of the hardest suggestions that we could probably have and just be like, cool, we got to fight through this as a group. And it was,
and we got South African Voldemort out of it. I mean, God damn, like
I look back on this. That was an absolute gift. And I cherish that story. I love that story.
It's one of my favorites because also that it was teaching me, one of the things I had to learn was like, how do you separate yourself from the suggestion, right? If someone says banana, you don't start by like, hey, I got a bunch of bananas. It's like, cool. What does banana mean to you? Is it the color yellow? Is it tropics? Is it vacation? Is it, a different type of food? And like you take it from there. So for me, that was a good opportunity. I didn't do a good job of it, but it got me thinking. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know much about Nelson Mandela. So I don't, I'm not, also he's dead. So like, two things I probably shouldn't wander into too much. But I think I remember my initiation was like me putting a beer on a casket or something like that. Like that was my contribution to things because God knows what I was going. I'm like, hey, this is all I know. Hey, yeah.
Nelson Mandela was known for partying. So.
Right. Partied hard.
Yeah. I think that would have fit. Yeah.
Big time.
I don't know why we didn't do that one.
Beer keg stands. Yeah.
Well, that was, honestly, seriously, one of my favorite memories of all that stuff. And also, I learned even back then how passionate you were about writing. And also, I was impressed with your, just your overall concept of writing because I think either before one of our shows or before one of our practices at the time, Thor, The Dark World had just come out. And I was like, hey, man, did you see Thor, Dark World? You're like, yeah. You're like, eh. And I'm like, what do you mean? And you're like, well, and you broke it down by in a very writer thing. You're like, act 2 was real weak. And then this, and then this. And then you were giving some really constructive notes to that. And I was like, oh shit, I never even really considered that. I was like, God damn, Danny's all over this. And so, years later when it's like, oh yeah, Danny's writing for SpongeBob. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Cause this guy fucking gets it. So
mostly because I hate Thor: The Dark World.
Well, you're not alone.
That was the only question they asked me in the interview. They're like, "How do you feel about Thor: The Dark World?" I was like, "Oh, you want to know how I feel about soup? Come on in."
Because I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. It'd be funny if it's a trick question where it's like, "Oh, wait, you overthink it." You're like, maybe everyone says they hate it, so maybe they want me to say that I like it. It's like that scene from Office Space where it's like, hey, whoever that guy's name is, Barry Manilow or whatever his name is. I can't remember what it is. But he's like, oh, yeah, I love that music. What was that?
Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton. He's like, yeah, I love Michael Bolton. I love his stuff. They're like, yeah, what's your favorite song? He's like, fuck. I told those motherfuckers I like Michael Bolton. You're like, I told him I love Thor: The Dark World. I hated it.
Yeah. That's exactly how it happened.
Exactly.
I'm curious about the interview process. Do you bring any of your in writing an episode or in writing for any of the episodes, do you bring any of your personal, is there an episode where someone despises soup? You know what I mean? Do you have the chance to
Not yet. Not yet.
Tune in next week.
Inject any personal stuff into the shows like that?
Definitely. I mean, the thing with the show is that it's a big world that is like a mirror to our world. So with all of the characters of SpongeBob, it's satire at its core. So anything from you or you find funny or you just want to make fun of, an analog for it, the ocean, world. Maybe not in real life, but at least in SpongeBob there is. So, trying to think of an example. One of the really stupid examples that I can think of, something I wrote recently without like giving anything away was just a joke about like skiing, where a character was like getting ready to go skiing, and then at like the smallest obstacle they're like, skiing's for jerks, and like threw their skis away. Which is, I've never been skiing, but I just kind of like had that, I was like, yeah, I mean, skiing's for jerks. So that was just, it was my own little personal gripe. I don't really hate skiing that much, but like things like that.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and you know, you're always pulling from personal experiences, just for something like relatable, you know, because a lot of the show, the funniest things to me on that show are the things that are like universally specific things. And I feel like that's true in like any comedy, the universally specific nuances of like, you know, there's always like the bad stand-up comedian version of that where it's like, you ever been to the dentist? It's like, yeah, everybody hates the dentist. So, you know, I
think we're losing you for a second here, Danny. I think Glendale's betraying you.
Find a way.
Oh no.
Glendale is.
It was a slow erosion. I was trying to listen through the.
Oh no!
And I was like, oh no, I'm losing it.
You guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, no.
Can you hear us? Uh-oh.
No!
Danny, no!
Oh.
Danny, if you can hear us, try disconnecting and reconnecting. Maybe that'll help you again. I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Ladies and gentlemen,
so much good stuff to mine here.
ladies and gentlemen, thoughts and prayers for Danny as he tries to reconnect via his internet. In the meantime, hello, Tal. Good to see you, pal. And Shannon. So you're saying, Shannon, that he dumped on Frozen 2 as well, huh? I'd love to know some of his remarks for that. Hey,
Am I
pal.
back?
He's back.
I'm back.
Welcome back. Glendale's betraying you, sir, but that's okay.
Yeah, Glendale is great. We love Glendale.
Glendale.
The best internet in
great.
Los Angeles County.
Wait, Jim Giovannini, technology
anyway.
like skiing is for joke. Is Jim, is Jim? Oh no, I think we lost him again.
Jim is legend, the suggester of
Jim is
Nelson
here!
Mandela.
Jim!
I am so excited.
Jim, we were just talking about you. If you're just tuning in, Jim, we just told the story of our very first improv show in Second City, and how you shaped our performative lives by suggesting Nelson Mandela during our show. And I stupidly accepted that suggestion and went on from there. So, Jim.
On the day that he died.
On the day that he died. So
It was legendary, and we love you for it.
we
so
still talk about that. We've talked about it multiple. He remembers. I gotta say, Jim, as a father, was that one of your proudest moments? Because I
better than I do.
have a young daughter, and I look forward to having my own moment like that. So, timing is everything. Oh man.
All right, so I think we have you back. I think we're good.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, great.
So, fan theory about SpongeBob is that they exist based on the nuclear fallout from the 1950s atomic bomb tests in the Pacific. True or false? Go.
Mildly true. I can't like officially confirm, but it is the you know, in the opening titles when it's like the little island,
Yeah.
and then it goes down into the ocean. So that island is Bikini Atoll, which is infamously like a nuclear testing place. So it's like it's a fan theory, but it's a little bit part of the joke of the show.
Yeah.
It's not something that we ever touch on or like confirm. They're just talking.
But everybody knows.
But
yeah.
If you're like explanation.
So you mean to say in a kids show you don't
Yeah.
flat out confirm these are radioactively mutated sea entities. Yeah.
Yeah, these are mutant fish.
These are mutant fish. It's like it's like
No,
Godzilla.
we're not Adventure Time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That tracks.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, it's so good. So you've written, like, obviously you've written more than just SpongeBob. You know, I'm assuming you've written, whenever I see kid shows, it's for me, it's a fascination of how to approach that as an adult to create something for kid shows. Like I've seen, sort of the live action kid shows where the kids come in with so much energy that you're like, dear God, like, how do they do this? Like, how do they come in like, hey, oh my God, Janice, will you go with me to the prom? Ooh, it's like so over the top. And for when it comes to like writing a show, like writing like something like SpongeBob, obviously with the audience being kids, and also writing something that's for adults, like how do you approach that? Like, what's that process like for you? Is it difficult? Is it easier? Does it matter? What's that like?
I guess for me, it's not as difficult as you would think, just because I grew up watching this show in particular, but also just like cartoons in general. I still watch a lot of animation, and this was kind of the thing that I really wanted to do. Even when I was like in college, this was kind of where I wanted to end up, and I can't believe I actually did. So it was in my wheelhouse, writing for this style of humor, and I had to learn like the animation part of it because it's really specific. It's unlike writing for a live action show or like a movie or anything like that. But there are definitely similarities. It's still writing. But there are like certain limitations where like there are just certain topics that kids don't know about. Like clearly, you can't be vulgar and you can't talk about like adult themes, but sometimes adult themes are like taxes, like boring adult stuff that, everyone, every once in a while someone will pitch the idea in the room of like, Mr. Krabs has to do his taxes. He's really behind on his taxes or something like that. And we're like, well, kids aren't going to care. Like, they don't know how taxes work. Like, you can make a joke about taxes, but from a kid's perspective of like, I don't know what those are, but they sound like the most boring thing ever. But that's fun. That's a fun way to view the world. Whereas I think like writing for a more adult audience, sometimes like you take the cynicism for granted. Like you're just like, yeah, of course everybody is cynical about this thing, but like kids don't know necessarily what to be cynical about. They get that through Squidward and Mr. Krabs. That's how they learn.
They have people guiding them through their cynicism.
Yeah, we're holding their hand so that, in 10 years they'll be like, oh yeah, this does suck.
Oh, wait, I can make that connection now. Yeah. No, it's funny you bring up taxes because that's my favorite thing to throw at kids. Like whenever, they're like, oh, you can't do this. I'm like, oh, did you pay your taxes this year? And they always look at me confused. I'm like, that's right. Go pay your taxes and come back. Like, my nephew was like, when was the last time you cleaned your AirPods? I was like, when was the last time you paid your taxes, Evan? And he's just like, he's like, they never know how to respond. I'm like, that's right. Go find out the value of pie and get back to me, you son of a bitch. Like, just super
Let me see
aggressive.
Your 401k, kid.
I love throwing that shit out there because they're like, I don't understand what that is. I'm like, I know, but you understand it sucks. You can tell that this isn't a fun thing and nobody likes to do it. So
with that said, there are like some times where we can figure out ways to do adultish themes that are through like a kid's understanding of it. I didn't particularly work on this one episode, but we did one a few years ago that was about like life insurance, and Mr. Krabs was trying to collect the life insurance policy on SpongeBob. So he's literally just trying to kill SpongeBob for 11 minutes. It was really funny. incredibly violent, but cartoon violent. So
Sure.
it's good. It's good for you when the cartoons fight.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's a really funny one because it's like you had to kind of explain what a life insurance policy was in like 30 seconds so that the kids would understand, like, oh, when this person dies, you get money. But that's also like a pretty dark theme.
It's bleak. Yeah.
But, yeah, it's super bleak. But the way that we did it was really ridiculous, over the top. So we were able to get away with it. And of course, they're like, SpongeBob has always been known for doing that, like, humor that's sometimes just for kids, and then sometimes like the adults get the second layer of the joke.
Yeah.
That's always fun. It's, you have to be kind of clever to think of that stuff, and try not to be like overtly adult with it, because they'll notice. Even the kids will notice. They'll be like, I don't think you were supposed to say that. But we have a lot of people with eyes on the scripts to make sure that doesn't happen.
Oh, I'm sure. I've heard people have just nightmares with trying to get past standards and practices with a lot of stuff. So I'm sure on a kid show, it's even that much more tight down. Yeah.
Yeah. The younger you go, the more strict it is. Like the first like foot in the door that I had in animation, I had an internship and then like a brief stint as an assistant at Disney Junior.
Oh, interesting.
On the network side. Yeah. So I was an assistant for a couple of executives, network executives at Disney Junior. So it's all preschool. And I had like a top-down view of kind of the whole like process where, how a show gets picked up, what the production kind of looks like, and then like what happens as a show is nearing the end of its shelf life. And it was really informative, but one of the things that I learned was that like there are a lot of rules for preschool shows. It's even more than you would think. Just like, you can't say this and you can't say that and you can't say this. It's more like there has to be a lesson in this particular episode, and like kids won't know this particular concept, so you need to simplify it like a lot more, or just like generally kids aren't going to know this reference or this like turn of phrase, so you can't say it at all, or can't like make the episode about that. It's a lot. There's a lot of stuff to juggle, which is why I like, the demographics for SpongeBob is like 6 to 11 years old, but obviously like there's a lot of adults who like it, even people who grew up with it who are now adults, and then even like my parents still liked it. But like there's a lot more that you can say and a lot more you can do. It's not necessarily like more that you can get away with. It's not like we're being sneaky, but it's just there's just a wider array of topics that you can pick from, and like not every episode needs to have like a moral lesson. In fact, a lot of SpongeBob episodes, as we're writing them, we're like, okay, so what would the moral lesson be here? Now let's take a left turn. Like,
nice.
Let's not do that.
Let's subvert expectation, and
exactly. Yeah, we want to subvert it. We want to make it something unexpected, so that it's something you haven't seen before, and it makes it fresh for us. Because if we've seen the same joke 1,000 times in Looney Tunes, how do we make that different?
Right.
It's so true.
But that's the fun part.
If you're tackling a concept that needs to be distilled down, or you get a note and say, you can't say this or you can't say that, specifically on your show, how does in the room, like how does that then just go back and everyone just pitches ideas into a void until one sticks, or is that on one person to kind of go back in and kind of guide that? How does that work from a room perspective?
It kind of depends on what the note is. Like sometimes if it's just a small change, if it's like, this word is outdated, use this word, or, like, I don't know. We use a lot of like old timey slang because it's funny, and like we draw a lot of inspiration from like vaudeville humor. So sometimes they use like, the word vittles instead of food.
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, but sometimes, you'll run into something that's just like a little too old. And they're like, okay, well, they're not like, speaking Old English. So if it's something like that, then whoever wrote the episode can just be like, all right, I'll change that. But if it's more of like a joke, like a full setup punchline kind of thing that needs to be rewritten, then usually the guys will like pitch things back and forth, or even just like email a couple alts, or even we'll just save it for after the whole episode is like drawn out, and we do an animatic for it, which is like, that's like the rough version where we have the dialogue pretty much all recorded, but then the visuals itself is just like rough sketches of like what's going to happen, but strung together in a QuickTime file. That kind of stuff, that's where we'll do a lot of revisions and a lot of new jokes, or if something's not landing, everybody gets their chance to like pitch a new idea for it. And that's also where we like cut a lot of the best jokes, because you gotta make the time limit for TV.
Yeah.
So it sucks, but that's part of it. And usually the stuff that ends up getting cut was, it was fat anyway.
Yeah.
So the episode typically works better without it. It's hard to see it go, but I've managed to recycle one joke so far.
One that had to be cut, that you were like, I
was like, I wish I could have put that joke in. And I've just, in the last script that I wrote, I managed to put it back in. And it was a very specific joke that I can't say because the first episode hasn't even aired yet.
Nice.
So in like a year and a half, someone
I tell you
might
what,
see it.
come back in a year and a half and we'll revisit this moment. You'll be like, hey, this is what we call a callback. You remember the joke?
Yeah.
Here's what it was. Did you see it? Because that's what I was talking about. I was referencing that. Now, it's interesting you talk about like things that are, just kids are going to understand, because I distinctly remember watching shows like Animaniacs back in the day, and I remember they had one sort of like short story in there called Good Feathers, which was a take on Goodfellas. And I remember back then, I'm like, I don't grasp the entirety of this because I had never seen Goodfellas, which is an R-rated Martin Scorsese film about mobsters killing each other. And the whole short started out with, as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a good feather. And I was like, and there was like a good feather, there's like a bird that was just like Joe Pesci. And I'm like, looking back on that, I'm like, what? Where's the connection there? Like for the kids, because the kids aren't going to get that. Like they're not going to understand. They haven't
when
seen
I finally saw Goodfellas, I was like, this is based on those birds from Animaniacs.
Right. He stole this.
And like, oh, I get it
Martin
now.
Scorsese is a hack.
They stole it. Yeah, it's so interesting how like that stuff has changed over time. And also just kind of going back to the preschool stuff, like I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I mean, just she will ask questions. I'm like, I hate to say this, but we're going to have to talk about this when you're older, because you just don't understand the concept of what I'm about to explain to you.
Yeah.
Like just the other day, she asked my wife over lunch, she goes, Mom, where do people come from? And she's like, oh, they're born or whatever. She goes, no, where did the first person come from? I'm like, good luck, Mom. Like, I'm cooking lunch.
Takes his plate and just puts it in the sink and walks out of the room.
She's like, I'm going to enroll you in an anthropology course at the local community college.
Right.
I'll answer your question.
Exactly. Or like we were driving to a playground and we drove by a church. She's like, Dad, what's that? I'm like, it's a church. And she goes, what's that? And I'm like, well, here's the concept of religion that maybe a 6-year-old will understand. I'm like, the idea of trying to teach them, although there's also certain shows like Bluey, which is a phenomenal show, which does such a good job of like teaching morals, and it's so fun, and Natalie absolutely loves it. I love that show as an adult. I'm like, let's do the one where they go get Chinese food. Like that one's so much fun and everything goes wrong. It's like, it's great.
She's like, we already saw that one.
Yeah,
Dad.
exactly.
Like, well, too bad. I'm in charge. We're watching it again.
I pay the taxes around here.
Yeah, did you pay the rent, Natalie? Did you pay the mortgage? Because I don't think you did. Dad's watching the Bluey episode where they go get Chinese food.
That is one thing, circling back to the preschool stuff.
Yeah.
Despite all of those, hurdles and obstacles and limitations that they put on the preschool content, it does, it makes it a more enriching show that you can watch like with your kids. Whereas, if you're just putting on the like YouTube Kids and letting them just click one and then it auto plays, and then within like 2 hours they're watching, the Green Goblin and Spider-Man molest Peppa Pig, like some just horrible thing.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's totally, no one's looking at it. Whereas, if it's highly, filtered, and you have actual like artists working on these things to make sure that kids are entertained and kids are learning, and that it's giving you something to talk about with your kid in a way that they'll understand, that's invaluable.
Yeah.
The sheer amount of like opportunities I've had to be like, hey, you remember when that happened on Bluey, Natalie? You remember that? Like, it's actually a very good, wholesome show that I also enjoy, because there's some other kids shows that are like, dear God. Like, this is, there's some subtlety yet wholesomeness to Bluey that is absolutely absent from some of these other things that are like, hey, this person's bad because they're bad, and this person's good because they're the good guy. And don't forget that this is the moral of the story, the end. It's like, wow, you're just going to just spoon feed that to everybody, huh? Okay. And I know someone would be like, hey, Doug, guess what? The show's not for you. It's for the kids. I'm like, yeah, but it's on while I'm in the room. So can we at least try a little bit more? Exactly. Like, because I see other shows that do a phenomenal job of just making everybody happy. Because for the longest time, and I got to give Jared credit, who's going off in the chat right now, who's just like, he's like, dude, you got to watch Bluey. And I was like, no, I don't need another show for my kid to watch. He's like, I'm serious, you got to watch Bluey. I'm like, I don't care. And then when we were on vacation, Bluey was on, and Natalie started watching it. I'm like, oh, this must be Bluey. And I found myself engrossed in the show. And I'm like, this is a really good show. I watched like one episode. I'm like, this is really good. Oh my God, this is heartfelt. And then I was finally like, Jared, you were right. And he just literally in all caps is like, I told you so. I will never stop saying I told you so. Jared, you were right. And Shannon says Coco Melon can suck it. Yes, Coco Melon can suck it. That's.
I was just saying, I don't have kids, but I'm fully on board with that. I have enough friends who have kids where I can say Coco Melon can suck it.
Yeah, man. That's just a bunch of fucking songs that I'm over,
I can't badmouth Coco Melon because I know people who work on it.
I think Coco
Melon, but you know what?
Fine show.
They get paid.
Yeah, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
That to me, and hey, if you're working on that show, congratulations, you're doing something creative that I wish I could do. But that is the kind of thing where I'm like, hey, you got a family of 3 kids, and you need to occupy them and just have them just kind of go just unplug their brains. Like, here's Coco Melon, and they just go, ugh, while they look on their tablets. The wheels on the bus go round and round, and just all that sort of shit. It's like, yeah, cool. Just have them unplug and watch that. And you can watch that knowing full well they're like, well, it's not bad. It's not bad content.
Yeah.
It's just not fun to watch.
They're not going to learn anything horrible from this. It's not going to traumatize them.
No, it'll just put them into a zombie pacified state, which means you can go and do whatever else you need to do while they watch it. So it totally works.
Do your taxes.
Yeah, go do your taxes, man. Woo! So there is an absolute just butt ton of content out there in the world right now with streaming, with movies. I mean, actually, I think someone posted in our Discord the other day, like the breakdown of hours just in like the Marvel universe, as far as actually, I think, did Jared post it? Someone posted it. I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick. I don't know if I will be able to, because people post such dank memes in our Discord. Check out our Discord link down in the description below. Yeah, here it goes. MCU runtimes by phase. Phase 1 was 6 films, 12.4 hours. Phase 2, 6 films, 12.7 hours. Phase 3, 11 films, 24.9 hours. Phase 4 so far, 6 films, 7 shows, almost 50 hours of content that exists out there.
I watched them all.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like,
so much time of my life gone away.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that in a graph.
No. I watched a lot of them more than once. Oh man.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, like I don't want to see it in the graph. It's like going on Steam and being like, "This is how many hours you played this game," and like, no, don't tell me that.
have you seen? This is off topic, but have you seen? Doug, I might have sent this to you. The visual representation of the number of days that you've lived versus the number of days that you have left.
Yeah, I think that made you shit your pants and have an existential crisis.
Yeah. I've got a big thing with mortality, and it's the same thing. I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see that I've used up almost more. Like when you see, you're just like, oh man,
I've used up more than I have left. Like
bean counter's just ticking away there. That's not good. Don't like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a thing where like I think when I die I'm just gonna be worm food and I'll become, space dust and it'll be great. I don't think my consciousness will pass on or anything like that, but my secret desire is that like I don't need to know if I don't need a heaven, I don't need a hell or anything like that. I don't need like an afterlife. I just want to know my stats. When I die, I want to know like exactly how many songs I listened to, exactly like how many hot dogs I ate, how many cats I got to pet,
right?
Like any metric that I desire, that I just want to know what it was.
That'd be cool.
That would be amazing. Like when you die, it's like it kind of like the red veil comes over, and it's like from Dark Souls. It's like you died, and then all of your stats start coming up, and it's like you could just spend. Time doesn't matter at that point. You're just like, oh my god, how many cats did I pet? You're like, whoa. It's just
how strong was I?
What was my max? What was my max strength, and when did it decline?
Was I?
You get to see like the parabolic trend of like your strength to when it started declining. You're like, oh shit,
Right.
That's my only wish in life, and I feel like some tech billionaire is gonna do that.
Yeah,
they're gonna create that for you. Be like, oh. Good, you're in luck. We've been watching you since you were born, so we know everything you did. I'm like, hey, that's great.
I mean, if you've got a smartwatch,
we have that information on you.
Smartwatch, that tracks all sorts of shit like that.
Fully connected.
Same, I'm like, I need to know how many steps am I doing good on my average this month versus last month. Like, what do I need to do? What's my mileage? How am I hanging?
I don't care about steps, but I want to know how many times I had to pee.
That's fair. Oh, what's the volume in which you peed? Like if you start breaking it down, it's like, what's your portion of pee that fills in relation to the ocean? Like these are stats and proportions that we need to know.
I need an Apple Watch that does that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I wouldn't wear it on my wrist. Just saying.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Where does that connect in? Justin, where does it connect?
Huh?
Where does it connect?
Do the soundboard.
Oh, hold on. Sorry.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Where's it connect? The dick.
That's a dick fart.
All right, I gotta do it. Where's it connect? Where's the thing? Here it is. All right. There
it is. Yeah. That's a very good. That's like a SpongeBob sort of sound effect.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely use that one.
Well, the point is, we are drowning in content.
What was your question? Sorry, we were talking about dick watches.
Yeah, that's all good. I'd rather talk about that. No,
I'm just gonna check the time.
Yeah, let's check. Yeah, cool. P volume's looking good. We are just, what's your take on the state of streaming content, TV these days? Like, are we drowning? Are we doomed? What's
I don't know. We're doomed.
I mean, I don't know. That's a bit dramatic, but.
I mean, like in the grand scheme of things, yeah, we're doomed. But everybody's doomed. We've always been doomed. That's just. I
feel like you and I are aligned in a lot of ways, Danny.
Yeah.
The nihilism runs deep.
As far as like streaming content goes, or just consumable things, like I don't know what are we just counting like shows and movies, or are we just saying everything?
I mean, just like,
my answer's not going to change. But.
Yeah. I was just saying, Justin and I, we could talk about this a lot. It's just, I feel sometimes there's just immense pressure to just be able to watch something just so you can be part of the zeitgeist and be part of the conversation about things. There's other things where I'm like, I don't give a shit because it's not my jam. I won't watch it. But there's other times where I'm like, oh God, I'm 3 episodes currently behind on Miss Marvel. And I'm like, I gotta get caught up, or like this was the first weekend in years since the pandemic started that I actually went to a movie on opening weekend. I went and saw Thor: Love and Thunder because I was like, I want to be all over this one. I don't want to have anything spoiled. I want to be in there. I want to be in it to win it. And there's like that sort of compelling drive to go and see that. Same thing like with Stranger Things. It's just like you want to be involved, or The Boys, and you want to be involved with the conversation. You don't, because spoilers are just everywhere these days. And if you really like a show, it's I think it's virtually impossible to sort of distance yourself from anything if you're on social media, because stuff's going to pop out. I think one of the worst offenders was Spider-Man No Way Home. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
Dear God, that shit got spoiled all over the place. It was such a shame, because I'm like, I wish I would have had this moment in the theater, seeing it and being like, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. But I did know it was going to happen. I'm like, that sucks. I already knew it,
Well,
yes.
No, go ahead. I feel like you had more to say on the topic.
I did, but you probably did too.
And speak your mind.
All right. So, I don't remember. No, I'm just kidding. No, I feel like there's definitely pressure. There's definitely pressure to keep up. But I've also gotten to the point where if something doesn't grab me right away, if I know a lot of people who are watching it, I'll be like, fine, I'll keep watching it. Like, I watched all of Ted Lasso, and I didn't think it was funny.
Justin, I want you to stay calm.
Everyone's.
I'm sorry.
Stay calm, Justin. Stay calm.
Yeah.
Everyone's.
Everybody thinks that show is funny, and I watched the whole thing, and I was like, this is charming, but I wasn't like rolling on the floor laughing. I was like,
I wasn't
okay.
rolling on the floor either. I am actually in the same boat as you in that regard.
Well, there you go. See?
Wow, Justin.
Common ground.
After all those weeks of recommending it, and here we are, you're like,
It was
it
fine.
was charming.
You take it however you want to take it. I still recommend it.
I mean, you were.
Guess what I'm going to recommend today?
What? Ted Lasso?
Bingo.
Bingo bango. This guy was on the pulpit being like, y'all must watch. Y'all must get started. Y'all must get Apple Plus
And I
to
still
watch
say
this.
I still say it's one of my top shows of all time. I don't think it's slap your knee hysterical, but I think it is a fantastic show.
See, there he
I think
goes.
it was
Now I
fine.
believe you again. And then he's like, it's cool.
Yeah, it was whatever. Like, it was fine. Some of the characters are likable. Some of them are not. I didn't like all of them.
It's fair.
Yeah, it's fun.
Doug's not trying to start shit.
I am. No, I mean, well, Doug is.
Yes.
Nelson
But
Mandela, Doug.
Flashbacks.
Yeah, that'll keep him occupied for a little bit while I finish up here. He's just crying in the corner while I'm like, anyway.
I should have said no.
On a diatribe
I should have
about
said
content. But yeah, no, I heard this quote, or maybe it was just like a thing attributed to Guillermo del Toro a few years ago. I don't know if it was a thing he actually said, but it was a thing that he implied. But it was along the lines of like, once I start feeling like I'm doing homework, I stop playing a game or watching a show or listening to something. Like, once it starts feeling like work and it's not enjoyable, then I'm out. Because there's too many things out there. There's too many things I have to do in my life. There's too many things I would like to see. So as soon as I'm like actively fighting against a piece of media or like, a piece of art or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, then I'm like, this, I only have so much attention that I can give. It's the attention economy. So you got to move on. You got to just be like, okay, whatever. Like, there are certain shows that I got. Yeah, like I got 2.5 seasons through, and I was like, I don't know about this, and then I drop it, and then everyone's like, oh, but right at the end of season 2, that's when it gets great. And I'm like, well, it's too bad. Like, I moved on. I got to do other things. Like, my life might have been better with that knowledge, but it's still just as good.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up.
About Lost.
No, go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
That's how I feel about Lost.
Yeah.
I never watched
I've always
Lost.
said Sam, like, I made it through, I think it was episode 3, season 4, and I went, done. I don't need it. I don't need it in my life anymore. And my family is upset. They have the DVDs and they'll go back and they'll watch it. And I'm like, I appreciate the fact that you guys like this, and I will not. I won't. I don't. Same thing. And then I've never had like the phrasing or the way to say it, but I think that's such a great way that you said is like, I as soon as it becomes homework, that's just not. I don't have the resources to give up for this. You know
Exactly.
It's interesting because I literally just saw
and Walking Dead, absolutely.
Yeah, Walking Dead. Dear God, that
Absolutely.
show ran its course. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this.
I'm waiting for it to be like officially over and all on Netflix, and then I'm gonna power through the last like few seasons that I missed.
Bingo.
I
Yeah.
don't think you'll need to, but I saw a recent it was from Vulture. It was from Eric Kripke, who was one of the producers on The Boys, and they said, basically he's had the experience of working on network television as well as on streaming, and that he basically gave a really quick breakdown of like what's great about streaming and also what kind of sucks. And he says, he loves streaming. He's like, I can't ever see myself going back to network. He says it gives you the ability to do two things: have most of your scripts written before you shoot a day of film, and then have all the episodes finished before you turn them over to air. He says that's great because we're in the middle of filming episode 7, and we realize that there's a different storyline we need. We still have time to go back and shoot it for episode 1 and drop it back in if we want to make that work. And he said the downside is that a lot of filmmakers who work on streaming didn't necessarily come out of the network grind. They're more comfortable with the idea that they could give you 10 hours where nothing happens until the 8th hour. He goes, that drives me fucking nuts personally. As a network guy who had to get you people interested for 22 fucking hours a year, I didn't get the benefit of, just hang in there and don't worry. The critics will tell you that by episode 8, shit really hits the fan. Or anyone who says, well, what I'm really trying to make is a 10-hour movie. Fuck you. No, you're not. Make a TV show. You're in the entertainment business.
I like that.
So saying
I
that
would agree with that.
Streaming, but he likes the fact that he cut his teeth in network.
Yeah, because I think he understands the logistics of it is great, right? Because because we've all seen that, right? Like where TV show storylines get muddled, something where you put way back in episode 1 doesn't necessarily work out. You're like, it's set in stone. Whereas now it's like, we get it basically ready to go. We release it, things are solid. But the idea of, I love his mentality of, I'm going to get you interested right away, and we're going to keep you interested the whole time, as opposed to, because we've all watched those shows where we're like, wow, I mean, episode 4 does get pretty crazy. Like Westworld's the one I think of, where I only watched the first season, and I was like, boy, this is really going. But in episode 4, I'm like, okay, now I'm into it. I mean, it's kind of disrespectful to be like, guys, wait 4 hours. Would you do that with any movie? It's like, listen, you got to get through the second movie. Then after that, man, it gets going. It's like, no one would ever do that.
That's Snyder cut. You got to get through the first 2.5 hours. But
right?
Man, that last hour and a half rips.
It's like, it gets going. So I think that's really interesting.
To tie it back into SpongeBob real quick.
Yeah, please.
So we are doing 2 spin-off shows with SpongeBob right now as well. We're doing Camp Coral. The official title is Camp Coral SpongeBob's Under Years, which is pretty much all of the SpongeBob characters in a summer camp. Most of them they're all younger. Most of them are kids. Some of them are still adults because they were always older than the others. And then the Patrick Star Show. And Camp Coral streams on Paramount Plus. I mean, they all stream on Paramount Plus, but Camp Coral is exclusive to Paramount Plus, and then eventually they put it on network TV, like cable. But then SpongeBob and the Patrick Star Show are just like full cable, and then they come to streaming like way later. So it's been very interesting to see. It hasn't really affected our process too much, but it's been interesting to see like how they release things, like the release schedule, because we've finished an entire season of Camp Coral, and they released half of it last year and are just like sitting on the other half.
Interesting.
Whereas like with SpongeBob, every few weeks basically they'll come out with like 2 or 3 more new episodes, and then wait for like maybe a month, and then a couple more episodes, because we've always got, there's always a deadline, and that's how it is on all of the shows that we're doing. But the release schedule is just like kind of different. Like they're able to just hold on to stuff arbitrarily, which they kind of do anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like we give them something pretty much like every week or every other week that they could just go to air with, but there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot of like marketing and stuff like that is involved, but it's been interesting. It's been interesting to see that the differences. And I'm not one of the people who like knows the numbers of people who watch what. I think our showrunners probably get that information and then probably do nothing with it. It's like, okay, great. Hey, that was good. We'll do it again. Like,
keep up the good work.
Yeah. Established show too, I guess, is that you're just like, we have a pretty baked in audience. Not that you can
definitely.
In, like you don't have to worry as much as an up and coming show.
Yeah, with that said though, it's like, you know, we can definitely guarantee we'll get like a couple 100,000 people for every episode. But if you were to compare that to like 2001, when there was no streaming or anything like that, you'd get a couple million per episode.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the norm. Whereas like now, for a show to crack 1 million viewers, it's got to be like the thing that everybody talks about. Like Better Call Saul came out yesterday. I doubt 1 million people watched it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like television viewers are like reverse inflation. they just keep getting smaller and smaller instead of the numbers ballooning up. Everyone's fighting for the same amount of people. You know.
So we're in a viewer recession.
I would say we're in a bull content market.
You know a lot about stocks, don't you?
I listen to Doug a lot.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Listen to Doug.
Is it a bull? Wait, which one's the better one?
No, it doesn't matter. Whatever you say is right, Justin. Whatever you say is right.
This is why I'm poor, because I don't do this.
Oh my god, that is 100% going to be a clip.
Fantastic. I actually was curious though, because you've had experience writing on both. I was listening to an interview with the Duffer Brothers talk about how they enjoy the free form nature that streaming allows, where you're not confined to 21 and a half minutes. You know, you don't have to cut it down to that. You were talking about jokes that you have to cut, and you got to trim that fat and get it down to time.
Yeah.
And you've heard countless stories over the years, if you follow industry news, of like people talking about how hard it is to kill your babies and the thing you think is gold and cut that, and how are we going to get to time? And they like the fact that, and sometimes that can get away from you because their last episode was 2.5 hours, but you know, to being able to play with, you know, some episodes are 39 minutes and some are 52. Do you have a preference on which one? Do you find one easier, one more fulfilling, working within very tight parameters versus working with a little bit more freedom like that?
Yeah. So unfortunately, even though one of our spinoff shows isn't like a direct to cable show, like it's a streaming first show, it does eventually go to cable. So we actually have to cut that one. That's Camp Coral. We actually have to cut that one down more than the others. So we don't actually get that freedom, even though it's a streaming show.
Interesting.
So on SpongeBob, we still deliver our shows at 11 minutes, which is like the old standard. You know, it allows a little room for commercials and then another 11-minute cartoon. But for like pretty much every other show, like that's been grandfathered in just because we're a holdover from like 1999.
Yeah.
Whereas Camp Coral and the Patrick Star Show, we have to deliver, I think, at like 10.5 minutes.
Okay.
It might be 10:45, but I think it's 10.5. So we have to cut it even shorter. But I think that is sometimes a good thing, because if we were given the freedom, like you were saying, to be like, okay, well, this episode is 11 minutes, but this one's going to be 14, and this one's going to be 22, and this one's going to be 7, there's so much less structure to that for a show like ours, you kind of need that. You kind of need the like constraints in order to keep the pace up, because it's also a show for kids, so you need to like keep it moving. You need to keep their attention. Like we were talking about, you can't wait. Oh, SpongeBob gets really good after season 5. It's like, no, like episode 1 in the first minute has to be good, and it is good. But yeah, same with like the Patrick Star Show and Camp Coral. Like we had to premiere those, so like the first episode had to be great immediately. And I think if we were given, like, every once in a while we're allowed to do a special, or because we're Nickelodeon's favorite, I guess we get to do like a half special where, oh, this episode is 15 minutes long, and then we'll pair like a little short with it where it's like, oh, this one's 4 minutes, so it all still comes out to 22 minutes or whatever. I didn't do the math on that correctly, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah, checks out to you guys.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I know Justin wouldn't check my math.
Nope.
But yeah, so it's still like collectively that episode will still come out to 22 minutes. But that is, I think, for the best for the style of show that we're going for, because it's fast paced. It's got to be funny. It's got to be funny right away. The density of jokes is like set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline. Like we can't spend a lot of time with dead air. You can't have a lot of like moody scenes of just, SpongeBob walking down the road for 45 seconds. Like, we're not Vince Gilligan. We can't get away with that. Yeah, our establishing shots are like a second and a half. That's what you get.
You know where you are.
It's a drum bucket.
Yeah, I think that was I watched the one that you had posted on Instagram, the one that you said that your first full true episode. And I can't remember the last time I watched a SpongeBob episode, but I was floored at how quick it moved. Like it was exactly what you're saying. It was like a breakneck speed.
Yeah, it's gotten faster over the years, definitely. Like if you watch season 1, a lot of those episodes are definitely have a little more of that like moody flavor where it's like, oh, we're just gonna like chill under the sea for a minute here, and then we'll move on to the funny part, which was cool. But just with the nature of the show and the amount of stuff that we want to do and the nature of the audiences now, it moves faster. It has to. But it's also, the show's changed over 25 years.
Sure.
So that's just how things work. But yeah, that episode in particular, if anybody at home wants to check it out, the title of that episode is Potato Puff, written by yours truly. That once again is Potato Puff. Just a quick plug there. You can find it on iTunes or Apple, whatever it's called, $3.99.
Yeah, go check it out.
But yeah, that one in particular is a really fast-paced episode because I came up with like the weirdest concept for my first story and needed a lot of setup, that story, so it just ended up being a lot of plot points. It was like the most complicated thing I ever wrote, but it ended up being like one of the funniest things I think I ever wrote too.
I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah, amazing.
That's one of those where I would love to see the script of, because as it was going, I was trying to imagine what it looked like when you put pen to paper, and I'm like, I cannot conceptualize what the script could possibly look like. It was just, it's amazing. It's amazing that you pull off what you do.
That episode already came out, so I can show you the script for that one.
Ooh.
Oh, great! Actually, if you could, I would love to see that. Yeah,
for sure.
That'd be really cool.
That's right.
But yeah, believe it or not, there's more in that script than what ended up on the screen.
I believe it.
I believe it. Yeah.
I believe it for sure.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That's awesome. Justin, do you think it's time?
Yeah. Oh, it's time.
What's happening?
The Throwdown.
That's right.
Prepped for this?
Oh, I know
briefly.
about this.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I was given one
this is gonna be
sentence
fun.
about this.
yeah, I gave you a little description. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the segment of the show that we call the Throwdown, where we basically put two things in an arena where they fight to the death, and we have to decide which one comes out victorious. And this one, this is curated by the Council of Elders on our Discord channel, a group of folks who help Justin and I determine what should go into this, and we typically don't have any idea about what's going to be happening. I let them know, Danny Giovannini of the Spongebob Giovanninis will be on here, so I use that as sort of an inspiration. So this week's Throwdown is going to be good old Sandy Cheeks versus Squirrel Girl from the Marvel Universe. Now, they also provide us with stat sheets for these folks, so they can help us do a little bit of I love
stats.
Objective breakdowns. Danny, I feel like if anyone here knows the most about Sandy Cheeks, it would be you. Could you break down who Sandy Cheeks is and what her strengths and weaknesses are?
Of course I could. Sandy Cheeks is a squirrel who lives underwater. She wears an astronaut space-like suit to breathe her air, and she lives in a tree dome in Bikini Bottom. She is a genius, an inventor, a scientist, but she is also a master of karate, or karate, as they say in the show. She is also great at extreme sports. She can surf. She can clam surf. She can snowboard, which is like surfing, but on snow. And she is very competitive. And she's from Texas, so she has a lot of guns.
Is that canon?
She has cannon.
It is now. I just said it.
You're talking to a writer, Doug. Who do you think it is? Who do you think the answer is? The answer is yes. Well, it's incredible because as I'm looking at the stat sheet, I'm like, he's calling out all the impressive stuff here. So yeah. Danny's not messing around.
I know nothing about Squirrel Girl though. So
well, guess what? Neither do I. So
great.
So apparently, Squirrel Girl is she's got a mutant powers. She's got a prehensile tail. And ew. And she's got one of her powers and abilities is preparation. I don't know what that means, but apparently she's prepared.
Right.
Martial arts,
like no one's business.
Yeah, man. You want to talk about someone who can plan a party? A large event. You give her a call. So she's got martial arts abilities, proficient in multiple weapons. Surface scaling, blah blah blah. Can communicate with and summon squirrels. I think that's a key point in this situation. These squirrels can produce supersonic screeches. All right, that's cool.
The squirrels that she summons?
Apparently so. That's definitely interesting. She's at least massively hypersonic speed, which I think might be a problem. Let's see here. Fairly durable, decent stamina, standard equipment, acorns, 4,000 plus flashcards of Deadpool's Guide to Supervillains, and she can summon squirrels from surrounding land. Now that's interesting too, depending on where this fight takes place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I'd like to think if they
take
take
key phrase in there too.
Yeah, because if they are, in water, she's probably going to die because she can't breathe, and Sandy Cheeks can.
Also, Doug, what is her weakness?
Her weakness is emotionally attached to her squirrels. So if you kill the squirrels, you kill her. Basically, she will come unhinged. Is my guess. Her intelligence is she's gifted, so she can develop complex strategies and solve difficult problems under duress, as well as being exceptionally gifted in the field of computer science. So I feel like this is a pretty good matchup. Other than actual size. Let
me ask this:
that's true.
If Sandy Cheeks, her classification is squirrel, and Squirrel Girl can summon squirrels, can she summon Sandy Cheeks and therefore control her?
Well, does she control them or just make them run to her?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it says can summon. I don't get the idea that she necessarily controls them, but if she can...
But they also do like screeches that she
Yeah.
can make them do, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard a squirrel
Can
supersonic
communicate
screech
with
at
some
me.
squirrels.
Yeah, supersonic. I mean, that sounds like, you're going to be deaf after this thing screeches. But if they're underwater, guess what? You're dead. They can't screech underwater. I mean, they could, but, does supersonic go underwater? Justin, check that math.
Yes.
By the way, Jim says Sandy's also radioactive from the testing. She's was one of the animals they put on the ship. She survived, so she's going to kick Squirrel Girl's ass. That's Jim's
True.
line of thought, which I think we should...
I will say, when Sandy hibernates, she goes into like a bear mode.
Yes.
Where she's like super feral and buff.
Right.
They do mention that she does have a rage. A rage power in berserk mode via being woken up during hibernation. She has a rage mechanic.
Yeah, she's a comeback mechanic in her rage meter.
So what I'm thinking is, in the situation where she's hibernating and Squirrel Girl summons squirrels, she gets summoned, woken up, she goes berserk mode. Now you got a bear squirrel.
Yeah. Squirrel bear.
Squirrel bear.
Jervis says Sandy is Wolverine.
Exactly.
This is interesting because Squirrel Girl is also considered an extraordinary genius. So
is Sandy.
No, I'm sorry. What I meant was Sandy is that Squirrel Girl is gifted, which is great, but Sandy is like genius level stuff. So I think the trouble we run into here is size. Although this is a girl, right? So average. I don't know how old she is, but she's not huge or anything like that. And let's face it, she's 20.
But she's a human.
Yeah, and let's be honest. If a squirrel decided it wanted to attack us, we'd be terrified. Squirrels are fast. I saw a TikTok the other day of a squirrel that it was so mad it was hanging onto this construction guy's jeans and it wouldn't let go. And the guy's like pulling on it. He's like, this thing's really mad. It's just like, I'm not going to let go. It was so pissed. I'm like, yeah, dude, if a squirrel decided it's coming for you, there's nothing you can do about it. That thing's going to get to you. Like,
that's it, man.
If you want to give, super like gifted intelligence and also you add in some berserk, a rage mechanic on top of that with karate and martial arts, this squirrel is not only going to be full of rage, it's going to know the pressure points. It's going to know the spots where if it puts just enough pressure, it'll cut off blood to your brain. I mean, this...
Can I also just say that Squirrel Girl, in her powers and abilities, has social influencing?
I mean...
She's got a couple million followers, presumably.
Yeah. Actually, Jared asked a really good...
You're going to summon a gang to beat up Sandy?
You know what? I'd still put Sandy, because do those other squirrels know karate? I don't think so.
That's true. So here's my argument, is that Sandy has a lot of inventions, and she's also... she lives within the logic of cartoons. Whereas I feel like Squirrel Girl lives in the logic of comic books, which is different. That's like within kind of reality.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Just, like, pull a thing out of hammer space.
Exactly. Like Toon Force is a real thing that usually it's like, well, that's overpowered. This person's gonna win. Jared brings up a good point though.
Okay.
Jared asks, can Squirrel Girl summon ghosts, Doug? Because there's an ongoing inside joke that, I don't know, it was something that was taken out of context where, I was like, do people believe in ghosts? I was like, I don't, because someone's like, hey, that thing moved. I'm like, who knows? Maybe a squirrel got in there and moved it, and you didn't realize it, and the squirrel ran out. And it's like, hey, squirrels are ghosts. That kind of became an ongoing joke. Thanks for making me explain that to Danny, Jared. Appreciate it.
Inside jokes are great when you have to explain them.
I thought it was a great joke. I was just like, then as soon as I said, I saw Danny's face. Inside. Danny's like, what? Why would she summon ghosts? She's not a necromancer.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Doug.
But it was really,
but now
really
that
good.
you explain it, it's brilliant.
Thank you.
All right, so which way are we leaning on this, boys and girls? What are we feeling?
I'm leaning towards Sandy Cheeks on this one, just because I think the rage mechanic plus the heightened intelligence, the complex gadgets and stuff that she could potentially bring to the table, and the fact that, again, Squirrel Girl can talk to her. Squirrel Girl can't control her. And while she's probably used to squirrels, I don't know if she's used to this kind of squirrel just running right at you. And I imagine Squirrel Girl would tear through any other squirrels, although the supersonic screeching could be a problem. I don't know. That's a concern.
She's probably got an invention for that, though.
Right? Earplugs,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, that's a pretty simple fix. Like, she's wearing a helmet. She can soundproof the helmet. She can, psychic wave proof the helmet too, so Squirrel Girl can't summon her. Canonically, we've had Sandy open like portals to other dimensions. Pretty much any gadget you can think of, we've probably given it to Sandy before. So she's got a lethal arsenal. I told you she's from Texas. She has a lot of guns.
Yeah.
They're just not traditional guns.
I also
They're ray
feel like
guns and portal guns.
Squirrel Girl's ability to speak to squirrels will only do good when she's begging Sandy Cheeks for her life.
Yeah. Yeah, it says, to be fair, Squirrel Girl can lift up to 25 tons. She's strong. Doesn't matter when a squirrel's coming right for your anus. Like, what are you going to do? I don't give a shit how much you lift. If a squirrel's going for you, like...
Sandy's scrappy.
Yeah.
She'll do what it takes.
Yeah, I don't give a shit, man.
If a squirrel's coming for your anus, you got to clench.
Brilliant timing. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's got to be Squirrel Girl for the win.
I'm feeling it, yeah.
Or Sandy?
That's what I meant.
Squirrel
Sorry.
Girl or
I'm
Sandy?
sorry. I keep. No. It's
Yep.
Sandy Cheeks for the win. My bad.
Danny, you on board?
I'm biased, so yeah.
And you said that so deadpan. I'm biased, so yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Sandy wins.
Oh, man.
God damn, that was great. I'm so glad Danny was here to give us the full rundown. That was very helpful. He was an expert in that.
You're welcome.
I love it. All right. Well, this is the part of the show where we turn over to recommendations. So if there's anything, Danny, that you've read, watched, listened to, anything that you've worked on, anything of that nature that you think that our listeners or viewers should check out, this is your opportunity to put that out there to the world and say, this is my recommendation. Danny, what are you recommending?
I already recommended my episode of SpongeBob.
Which you absolutely should.
Yeah. Which is, again, Potato Puff. There are actually two that I've written that have aired now. The other one is called Upturn Girls, which is also hilarious, if I do say so myself. Although I only had so much to do with that. A lot of it is, the actors and the artists and the production people who make it all happen. I got to give a shout out to them. I'm nothing without them. But a different recommendation that I would give, I've been reading the manga Berserk recently.
That's
I'm a little more than halfway through it right now. I'm on like volume 25 or something like that. And good God, it's great, but it's one of the most like violent and heartbreaking stories I've ever read. So if you like SpongeBob, you'll like Berserk.
I've seen the 3 movies they have of that show on of that manga on Netflix, and I agree with you. I think that's, if you like SpongeBob, you'll like this show. I think that's true.
Those 3 movies are like the tip of the iceberg for this story.
So I've heard.
It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't been able to find it anywhere for a long time, and then I found it on the Dark Horse comic app, and you have to pay for everything, and it's kind of expensive, but I say it's worth it because I have been spending like $30 on all of these, collections of volumes every 2 weeks or something. Like, I can't put it down. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's just they're also coming out with more now, even though the creator died, and his friend was the only guy who knew how the story ended. So now they're finally wrapping up the story, and I'm so stoked. Like, I feel like I picked the perfect time to get into it.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wolf just shouted in chat, Griffith, in all caps. So
Griffith! That's how I imagine he screams his name.
Justin, what do you got to recommend?
Well, obviously, I'm going to recommend you've got to check out SpongeBob Squarepants. And
I thought for sure you were going to say Ted Lasso.
So did I.
That's subverting expectations. Yes, check out SpongeBob. Specifically, I would recommend the 2 episodes Danny has written. I can personally recommend one of them because I've watched it.
What's the name of it, Justin?
It's Potato Puff.
There you
Puff
go.
Potato.
There you go.
Magic
Potato Puff. Yeah,
that's the one. It's wonderful. I really did enjoy it when I watched it today. And then secondarily, I would absolutely recommend Ted Lasso. If you can get yourself a subscription to Apple TV Plus. If you want to wait for season 3 and binge it in a week, do that. I'm not saying you should, just saying you can. But it's a wonderful show, regardless of what any other fucks say, and you should watch it. There you go. Doug, what do you got?
I would like to recommend a specific episode of Ryan Sickler's podcast, The Honeydew, that he does with Jeremiah Watkins. This is the second time Jeremiah Watkins is on there. Jeremiah Watkins is an amazing comedian and improviser, trained in the world of Second City, I think, out on the West Coast. And The Honeydew is a podcast that's kind of known for highlighting the lowlights, where they basically bring in guests who talk about some of like the lowest parts of their lives, and they have a good laugh about it. They make it very wholesome and things. And Jeremiah Watkins tells an amazing story about how he tried to get on a show. I think it was called Wild and Out. And
I know that show.
How he swung big, and
like Nelson Mandela big?
like Nelson Mandela, bigger than that, my friend, bigger than that. And he tells an amazing story that I was like, hey, I don't think that was really that big of a miss, but the people that he did that for didn't feel the same way. And he also tells, he journaled a lot when he was younger, and he told an amazing story in his journal about the night he met Andy Dick and what that was like.
No.
And it was amazing. It's a really great podcast episode. I highly recommend it. I enjoy that podcast anyway. It's phenomenal. But that particular episode had me I was laughing so hard listening to it. So check that out, The Honeydew with Ryan Sickler, wherever you get your podcasts and things of that nature. And speaking of that, gang, you can check us out anywhere you can catch your podcasts, on things like Apple Podcasts, Podbean. Also, check us out on Good Pods. I mentioned that a little while ago and then kind of stopped using it, and then I'm back on. It's kind of like Instagram for podcasts. Like, as you listen to podcasts, you can like click those ratings, and it shares it in a feed, so people that you follow and like are friends with see what you're listening to, you see what they're listening to, and you kind of like can share that sort of shit. So check us out there. And also, don't forget to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/MindGapPodcast. If you liked this wonderful human, Danny, and you can tolerate Justin and I, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're feeling extra fancy. Check us out when we live stream on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central for the podcast, and I host a video game stream on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central. This Saturday, Carly, a.k.a. C2, is going to be joining us for a beautiful round of What the Dub, so come hang around for those kind of shenanigans. And don't forget to follow us on all our social medias at Mind Gap Podcast. Justin also exists digitally as well.
I do, but before I tell you where you can find me, Danny, is there any place where people can find you if they want to see all the cool shit you're up to?
My social media is Dang Ninny, which is a play on my name, but it's mostly like locked down and private because SpongeBob fans are wild. They love the show.
I suppose
and they hate the show. They've got opinions. Which everyone is entitled to, as we said. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. So, but they really like to make their opinions known sometimes. So I get a little shy on the social media.
That's completely fair.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I might open some things up here and there. I might open up my books.
Okay. Well, there you go. How about this? There's a barrier to entry, right? You've said it, but they got to figure out how to spell it now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
And they have to go through the approval process. They got to find you. They got to add you. You have to go through and approve whether or not it's cool, and then go on from there.
DM me the secret code. I said it at some point in this podcast, but you'll have to go back and listen again. Mm-hmm. And you'll only really hear it if you give it a like and subscribe.
It's true. It'll pop up after that. So
you gotta want it.
Good job, Danny. Good job.
Moral of this story.
I'm great at this.
You're awesome.
I'm a total shill.
Yes.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. While you're in the online realm, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podbean, all the different places where you can find and consume quality podcast. You can find and consume us, and we'd love to be consumed. Rate, review, share around all those things, and then 2east8th.com, and follow 2east8th on all social medias, and then also Love and Improv Film on Instagram. It is Love and Improv Film on Instagram.
Listen, you checked your notes. I'm proud of you. Way to go.
Notes. It's the actual account I have pulled up.
That's right. Those are your notes.
I'm not even going to take the chance that I type it wrong. All right. Yeah. And
it's all good. And that's that. One more time, Danny, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Would love to have you back. We barely got to. I was just kept looking at the time. I'm like, damn it, we gotta go. I could talk for hours. This is so much fun. So we'd love to have you back at some point and chat with you more. But we're so happy for you and everything you're doing, and you're just kicking ass, taking names, and we love you, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great to hang out with you guys again for the first time in 10 years. This was super fun. So yeah, anytime you want me back, just let me know.
Oh yeah, for sure. What I'd really love to do is have us all watch a movie and then have Danny break it down writer style and be like, Danny, tell me why I'm an idiot for liking this movie. That would be my favorite thing. So
I will say I've gotten a little less harsh on things as I've gotten older and learned how to write a little more, and also learn how the industry works a little more. So I give a little more slack, especially with big movies that I just, if I have fun, that's all I need.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to break down every single thing, but I still maintain that Thor: The Dark World was not great.
And you know what? I don't think
any of my criticisms that I said 10 years ago, I stand by them.
They were great. They were great, and I don't think anyone's going to argue with you on that anyway. So, for sure. But thanks so much for stopping by. This was an absolute delight. And with that, I want to say, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you.
Chat, thank you.
Listeners, thank you.
And you all have a dandy fucking week. And that was the recording of the show. Wow. Thank you so much to the chat. Oh my gosh. Jim, you're the best. Roxanne, you're the best. Shannon, you're the best. Yeah,
Shannon's my sister.
Shannon, you're amazing. You have an amazing family, man. Talk about some support. Y'all showed up here to this podcast, and they didn't even get the full range of the fart soundboard either, so that's their loss. But yeah.
Many more to go.
At one point, I didn't get a chance to say, but Roxanne said early on, Danny, you look great. She gave you a kissy face and hearts and everything like that. That was so awesome. And
Thanks, Mom.
Shannon says Frozen 2 was a unicorn.
What?
She
Frozen 2?
Yeah. Do you like Frozen 2?
No.
The pause, and then you're just like, no.
I saw Frozen 2 with the kids, with the family.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan.
I'll be honest with you.
It's not for me.
I'd be honest with you, I'm not really a fan of either of them, but if I had to choose which one to watch, it would probably be Frozen 2. Because Frozen 1 for me is just boof. It's gross.
Too much.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy it that much. But hey.
But we're also, 30-something or plus year old men, and I don't think that movie's made for us.
Yeah, but we could still enjoy it, Danny. We could still enjoy it,
That's true.
That's the thing.
I like how in that one sentence, Danny aged us up
he's considerate.
A minimum of 2 decades. Yeah. 30-something plus or more.
Hey,
I don't know how old you guys are.
He was playing. Hey, listen, I'm 39. All right, so it's totally cool.
I assume Justin is 50.
Wow.
52.
No, wait, how old are you?
52.
Fine.
The rage, and then fine, I accept it. I accept you as you are.
Okay, so I'm 30. We're all in our 30s.
We're all in our 30s.
I love it. Shannon goes, he saw it with us. We cried. He was like, meh.
That's exactly what happened.
Isn't that, I don't know if that's a great or a terrible thing where people are like, oh, I had this visceral reaction. You're like, I didn't feel shit. I was just didn't do anything for me.
I was bored.
Wait, you cried? Well, yeah. What did you do?
I'm sorry, what? We were watching a movie?
We were watching. I'm sorry, I fell asleep.
Yeah, I wasn't doing anything. That was boring. Yeah, that's amazing. But I thank you all for hanging out with us. This was great, and thank you all for the commentary. Thank you to Wolf. Thank you to Jared. Thank you to Tint, Tal, Zenny for your wonderful Pokemon question, which you always ask. I respect it and I appreciate it. You all are the best, and thanks for checking us out. And don't forget to check us out on Saturday, 8 p.m. Central Time for the What the Dub stream. It'll be a lot of good stuff. A lot of good time is what it will be. So don't you forget. So until next time,
Shout out.
What's up?
Shout out to Saddam.
Everyone's
Pokemon.
favorite Pokemon.
The Pokemon.
Everyone's shot on the Pokemon. That's what they call them. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, gang, and we'll see you next time. Bye.